Your clients are failing and it's your fault, but it's not your fault in how you think. All right, fellas, welcome back to another advanced agency and B2B service provider training. In this video, I'm going to share with you guys how I took my company's client results from generating about 1 or 2 case studies per month to literally generating on average 1 case study per day amongst our 70 to 80 active clients. Okay. And the key is that we actually didn't do this by providing a better service. So let me tell you a little story here, right? So we have 2 active clients inside of our business here at Catalyst Holdings, both of which are in similar industries. They're actually in the exact same industry with similar offers, providing similar type of services for their clients as well. When we came in there and we kind of did an overhaul and we launched their ads and we set up their marketing, created their offers, all that kind of stuff, they ended up getting 2 completely different results. One of them has actually added over $50,000 in monthly recurring revenue, is one of our biggest ambassadors and has referred tons of people to work with us. The other one still hasn't gotten a single client and has transparently been a little bit of a challenge. And so if these 2 individuals were in the same industry with very similar offers, very similar advertising and all that kind of stuff, why did one have such massive success and the other one did not? Now, obviously, it comes down to, well, who those individuals are. However, what most companies do and what most agencies do is they say, oh, this client sucks. He's never going to make it, yada, yada, yada. And fair enough. Like you can do that, but that's not going to make your service delivery better. When we started to see this over and over again, and I started to look at all my clients and be like, okay, what do the top 20% of clients do that the rest don't? I noticed 5 key things. We're going to talk about a lot of that in this video today. Okay. But I said, hey, I could sit there and I could just blame other people and blame my clients for not succeeding because I know our systems work, or I could take full accountability and create a system in which is going to make the majority of people succeed. Okay. And that is when I originally discovered this equation that I'm going to share with you right now. We got sophistication times service equals result. Okay. So what is sophistication? Well, sophistication is, how good your client is, right? So that goes into their expectations that was set with them. That goes their existing ability. That is their overall IQ. And then sophistication can also be their experience that they have in whatever it is that you were doing. Right now, your service, well, that's pretty simple and straightforward, right? Like if you look at your service here, that is your ads, your offers, your landing pages, etc. Okay. Now, what most companies do is they allocate all of their time and resources trying to make this better. But I'm going to show you why that's broken. I'm going to show you why that's broken and then why that doesn't really work. Okay. So let's look at this as a scale of 1 to 10, right? Sophistication on a scale of 1 to 10 and service delivery on a 1 to 10. Okay. Well, let's say you've learned how to run ads, you've learned how to create good offers, you learned how to good landing pages, you have a bunch of clients that have gotten some results, so you know your system works. Okay. So in that case, let's say you have a 8 out of 10 service. Let's be really conservative. Okay. We have 2 options here, right? Option number 1 is like, we could be like, damn, let's try and get this to a 9 out of 10 service, right? Let's go and pay a $20,000 a month copywriter to come in and write all the ads and create all the landing pages for our clients, right? Let's take on this big expense, right? And let's get this from an 8 to a 9 on our service. Now, here's one thing to think about. Okay. Your clients that aren't succeeding with a 14% opt-in rate on your landing page are not going to succeed with an 18% opt-in rate on your landing page, right? And so therefore, it is a much lower leverage activity and it's a much smaller lever to pull to go and pay $20,000, $30,000 a month to get the best copywriter to come in and service your clients. Now, on the flip, let's look at the sophistication level here, okay? So let's say we have a 2 out of sophistication. Well, 2 times 8, we get 16 out of 100. Right? What that would mean is on average, 16% of your clients become case studies. This is just a simple way I like to describe this. Right now on the flip, if you increase this to a 8 out of 10, well, now this 16 goes to 64, right? And now 6 out of 10 clients are becoming case studies, right? And now you have a really good service and you're getting a lot of results and that flywheel begins to kick. Okay, so now the big question is, okay, we all know how to increase our service. We know that we need to run better ads, create better offers, landing pages, etc. Right? That's the basic stuff. And that's where most of us spend our time when it comes into increasing and making our service delivery better. But how do we increase the sophistication level, right? How do we increase, how do we get this number to go higher? Okay. Two things. Number one is your sales process, right? But that's not actually what we're going to talk about today. Number two is your onboarding. Okay. Your onboarding right here has been the biggest lever that we have been pulling inside of our own company here at Catalyst Holdings to increase the overall results without actually changing our service delivery that much. So with the onboarding, right, what we are looking to do is the onboarding, it's going to set expectations accurately so they understand and they're not oversold and they're not mad at you from there. If they don't have existing ability, it is going to train them on the existing abilities that they need in order to succeed with your service. If they don't have a high IQ, that's okay because you're going to make it simple to understand. You're going to make these trainings and things that you're doing and you're walking people through in the first 7 days so simple to understand that even a grade 3 kid could be able to figure out. And lastly, if they don't have the experience, you're going to give them that experience by telling them stories and showing them case studies of clients who you've worked with in the past, what day 1 looked like, what day 5 looked like, what day 3 looked like. Okay. Now here's another example, and here's another story I like to tell. Okay. So in the beginning of February or middle of February, I ended up bringing on a media buyer onto our team. Right now, this media buyer, we pay him $5,000 a month, and he runs all of our Facebook ads. If you've seen any of my Facebook ads as of recently, it's the media buyer that runs them. Okay. Now, before I hired this media buyer, I was getting about a $200 to $300 cost per qualified call. I went and I paid this media buyer $5,000. And then the first day of running his ads, he spent $2,000 on my ad account. Of the $2,000 he spent, he booked 2 calls and only one of them was qualified. And so I said, hey, man, you got a $2,000 cost per qualified call. What's going on here? And he looks at, and he just texted me back in Slack and he says, don't worry, let it cook. And I'm like, I mean, you've costed me $7,000 over the last 24 hours, so I don't really have a choice, right? Well, fast forward a couple of months later, that's been one of the biggest advertising campaigns that we've run, and it's generated hundreds of thousands of dollars for our company since that moment, since we started with him. Now, the thing is, if you went to your clients and you spent $2,000 and you only booked them 1 call and you told them to let it cook, they would probably charge you back, right? So why did I not charge back? Well, because I had the expectations, the existing ability, the IQ, and the experience. And as a result, instead of freaking out and shutting off the ads and canning my media buyer and all this kind of stuff after spending $2,000 and only booking 1 call, I didn't do that because I had all of this here. And as a result, we've made hundreds of thousands of dollars since. Okay. And so that is a huge reason, and that is a big reason as to why this part and setting up your onboarding and injecting as much of this into your clients before you even start this is so important and leads to so much more of this. Okay. So now that you understand that, let's get into how do we actually do it. First step is we need a good sales to delivery handoff. That is number 1. Have you ever been on the phone with a bank? You've given away all your information. You've told them everything that you have. You verified your card, give them your mother's birth date, all this kind of stuff. You finally get on the phone with somebody. They escalate you to somebody else. When you go to that second person you've been escalated to, they then make you re-verify. How does that make you feel? It probably pisses you off, right? Pisses me off too. And it pisses your clients off as well when they have an exhausting hour and a half long conversation, share everything about their business, only to find out that they have to do the exact same thing on the onboarding call. Now, in today's day and age, we have tons of tools like Fathom, like even just basic Loom transcription recorders that you can take the transcripts of your calls and you can ask ChatGPT, you can ask different AI software transcription apps, what are the biggest pain points in this client's business? What have they tried before in the past? Why have they failed? And basically asking them the same questions that your sales team would be asking them, shooting that over into one single document that then gets handed off to the delivery team. So then when the delivery team begins to actually meet with the prospect, you spend the first 5 to 10 minutes not clarifying why they are there and going through all those, asking all the questions to gain context. You spend that confirming and asking if there's any additional context that they have to provide. Okay. So then how do we actually get in? Like, how do we actually follow? And what does this actual onboarding process look like? Okay. Well, and I just took it off of, Alex Ramosi. I just follow the closer framework. Okay. This is what we do on our onboarding process. But obviously, it's not the exact same as a sales call. So this is what we look like here. Okay. So we spend the first part clarifying why they're there, right? And you ask all the same questions, right? What have you tried in the past? What is your goal? all those typical sales questions, except we are confirming, not asking, right? Because if we ask, and then we're going to piss people off. Okay. Now, the second thing is we're labeling them with a problem. As a result, this is the biggest problem in your business, right? And as a result, these bad things have happened. The deeper that you can show that you understand their problem, especially as a delivery team, the in safer hands the customer is going to feel. That's a very important thing as well. Now, the next thing is we're overviewing their past experience. Okay. This is also a very important thing. Okay. I know I spelled that wrong. Don't worry about it. If we don't overview their past experiences, and if the delivery team isn't aware of what's happened to this prospect in the past, the delivery team is at risk of doing something that could trigger your client to believe that they're going to experience something that they've already experienced before, which ended poorly. Okay. So, for example, you tried to run ads in the past before and it didn't work because all the leads were unqualified. Okay. Now, if you don't address that in this initial stage, right, and if you don't help them understand why those leads were unqualified, maybe, and actually identify the root cause of that. Were the leads unqualified? Were they not handled properly? Were they not filtered properly? Was the offer wrong? What was the actual problem in the past? Right? You are then at risk of you then running ads for your client, you generating the first 4 or 5 leads, because statistically, when you advertise like 60% of leads on any offer are most likely going to be unqualified, they're going to get 2 to 3 unqualified leads in the first couple of days. They're going to be like, oh shit, here we go down the same road again, bad, 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 bad. Then you're going to be fighting an uphill battle trying to save this client. They're going to stop engaging with you. They're going to think that they got burned in the past, or, and all these bad things happen, right? So we want to catch these things earlier on in the onboarding process. Okay. Now, the next thing here is we want to sell them the vacation, right? Now, I know that sounds crazy. Like, what do you mean sell them the vacation? They've already been sold. Okay. But really the way I like to think of this is like at any given service provider, in any given agency, you probably have 10 to 15 different things that you maybe do for your client, right? Maybe you run ads, you set up their landing pages, whatever the case may be. You help them, you provide them scripts, you coach them, whatever it is that you do. Right now, the thing is that based on the specific problems that they're having, right? Like labeling the problem up here, right? So based on this problem, right, what we want to do is we want to sell them and be like, hey, because you're experiencing problem 1, right? Catalyst advantage, or your agency advantage number 1 is we are going to do this, which means that we will solve this core problem that you're facing so you can impact, benefit of your life. Right. And what you want to do here is it's almost like simplify and sell. Right. I'm going to add that. Simplify and sell. Right. And so what I mean by that is, like, if you offer 15 different things and you throw your client the book, they're going to be like, oh, they're kind of all over the place. Right. But the way that we like to frame it is like, hey, I know we do all this. Here are the main 3 things that I want you to focus on, because these are the main 3 things that are going to solve the biggest constraint in your business right now. Then we go to, the next thing is I like to explain what we do. So that's when you give an overall demo of your service, right? If you have a central client communication hub, how the ads look, like, what the onboarding process for the ads look like, introduce them to your team. Now, here's the important thing with this. As you're explaining what we do, one of the most important things that you can do with this is to make the client repeat things back to you. When you do this, their comprehension will go up the roof. And we're going to talk about this towards the end of the onboarding process as well, as to how to actually wrap these processes up, right? But you watching this video, in video format, you've probably retained about 10 to 20, 30% of what I said. And I'm also giving you visuals to go with that. The problem is, like, at minimum, 70% of things that I've said to you, you've probably already forgotten unless you go back and rewatch this video. Okay. So then when you dump everything that you need to do for your client needs to do, and what they need to expect and their expectations and how this works, and you throw the book at them of everything that they need to comprehend over the next 3 or 6 months of working with you in a simple 30-minute onboarding call, well, they're probably only going to remember about 30% of it, right? And then as a result, clients have these missed expectations and they don't understand things and things go wrong and all this kind of stuff. And you're sitting there like, what the fuck? I told you that on the onboarding call. And then you're like, yeah, don't do that. Instead, especially when you are getting clients to say very important things, like, for example, one rule that we have as our clients is do not DM our team. And the reason why we can't have you DM our team is because we need to keep, like, the entire team of Catalysts, our outbound specialists, our marketers, our advertisers, like our entire team of Catalysts, our founders, our CEOs, all that kind of stuff. They're all involved in our client's Slack channel, right? And so if our client is like side DMing our marketer something about the ads and a change to making the ads, our sales consultants and the guys helping them out with sales aren't seeing that conversation. They don't have the context, and overall the entire business moves slower. Okay. So for example, that's a thing that we make people do. We don't DM in ads. But then what we would do is, if I was onboarding you right now, is I would explain that to you. And then I would say, hey, one thing I've learned is just to make sure that you fully understand this and you fully comprehend this. Do you mind sharing to me why we're going to keep things in Slack channels and not DMs? Right. Depending on the actual client, you can frame it in a lot of different ways, but then having them actually repeat that information back to you is going to cement that into their head. Where if you just say it, they could be distracted, they could be texting somebody else, they could be, zoning out, they could be thinking of something else while you're talking, and then they forget about that. Next thing you know, that they're DMing you, and all these problems begin to come up. Now, the last thing that I like to do at the end of it is to obviously reinforce their decision, right? And a good way to do that is to give them the clear next steps, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then B, another thing to do is if you have somebody that's in very similar situations, right? Maybe in real estate, 250-year-old female real estate agents, or whatever the case may be, connecting them into a group chat, introducing to them each other, reinforces the decision of the new prospect that, hey, here's somebody that they've been working with in the past. They're just like me and they're succeeding. That's another great way to do it and deliver that quick win. Okay, now here's another thing too. Okay, and we also want to talk about this on the onboarding call as well. It's what I like to call, I think we're at number 3 here, is to hammer in the 5 keys to success. So back to what I was saying earlier, we closed about 575 clients last year. I analyzed them all and I said, okay, what do the top 20% have in common that the others don't? Now, in our case, it was these 5 things. Number 1 is that they track their data. Number 2, they participate in community. Number 3 is that they move fast. Number 4 is that they understood expectations. And number 5, they over communicated. Okay. As if we get into stuff here, now is when we're really focusing on this stuff right here, right? We're focusing on increasing the expectations, their IQ, the existing ability and experience, right? This is a big part of that as well. Get rid of that just for cleanliness sake. Okay. So coming back down to here, right? I analyze, and I'm sure a lot of these are going to be similar with a lot of the companies that you're running right now. Our top 20% of clients, they all track their data. They track their data because when you are growing a business, it is essentially a chain link. You got on the very front end, what is the click-through rate of your ads? And then on the very back end, what percentage of people upsell into higher ticket services? Okay. Now from there, it's like link click-through rate, then it's like landing page conversion rate, then it's scheduling rate, then it's show up rate, then it's close rate, then it's success rate, then it's upsell rate, like all these kind of things, right? But the thing is that if you're not making as much money as you want, it's because one of those links, one of those chain links are broken or underperforming. However, if you're not tracking the data inside of your business, then you don't know which is underperforming. And as a result, you're sitting there wasting all day, working all day long on the wrong things. And as a result, your business isn't growing. So the businesses that we work with that track the data, and we provide all the tools for them to track the data, but some people still don't do it, right? But the businesses that do it and they provide the data, we're able to, have a conversation with them at the beginning of every week. Okay, based on the data, this is the biggest bottleneck in your business, and this is what we're going to relentlessly focus on improving this week. Next thing here, participate in the community. We have, in addition, kind of like as a bonus and that you could say, we have a mastermind for all of our agency clients, right? It allows people to connect with other, online B2B service providers doing anywhere between $10,000 and $200,000 a month, which are essentially our client. Now, the thing is that we have a lot of people in there who don't ever either show up to those calls, and or sometimes they do show up to the calls, but they leave their camera off and never actually ask a question. On the flip, you look at all of our best clients, and usually they are regularly on those calls, camera on, asking questions to either other people in the mastermind or myself and my business partner, right? And the reason that they're doing is because they have a challenge, and this goes into the next one where they move fast. They have a challenge, and instead of trying to spend 3 days figuring out on their own, they just go and they ask people that have already done it so they can move quickly. Okay, the next thing is just like that. It's like they move fast, right? And so if I look at this and I'm like, okay, if I say, hey, can you film this new ad script, right? Some clients will get it to me by the end of the day. Others will take a week. The ones that take a week move exponentially slower than the ones who get it done in a day. And growth compounds over time. So it's the difference between being at $100,000 a month versus still at $10,000 a month in 3 to 6 months or now. Could be things like that when they compound and they add up over time. The next thing here is that they understand expectations, right? Similar to me, they could spend $1,000 on ads, not make 10K, and they're not freaking out because they're looking at the metrics and they're looking at the KPIs and they understand the testing phase and they're like, okay, things are above par. We need to let cash catch up. Last thing here is that they over communicate. They are letting us know about lead quality. They're letting us know about their show up rates. They're letting us know about all these things so we can actively make these adjustments and improvements. You'd be shocked at the amount of people that don't let us know these things, right? And then sit there and is like, oh, like, yeah, the leads have been unqualified, right? Okay, well, you didn't tell us that, so we weren't able to make those changes. Okay, so the next thing that we do is on the onboarding process is we hammer in these 5 things because this is huge with that. And coupled with what I said earlier, we make them repeat back every single thing. And we basically say, will you do this for me? Will you promise me that you will do this? Because if you do, I will promise you that you'll have like a 3 to 4 times more likely chance of becoming one of our next banger case studies. Now, next thing that we do is we also then do implement something which is called BAM FAM. I don't know who came up with it. I'm assuming the guy who came up with it made a lot of money because it works very well. And basically what this stands for is book a meeting from a meeting. And so basically after the onboarding call, in our case, after our onboarding specialist onboards people, they have a one-on-one offer creation and strategy call with me. The call with me is booked before the end of the onboarding call. So clients are never left in no man's land, not knowing what to do. Clients always know what their next meeting is and what they need to do between now and their next meeting, especially in those first 7 days, because the first 7 days are the most important part of your entire service delivery. That's when they're going to form their entire first impression with you, whether it be good or bad. That is going to be incredibly hard to alter, or it's going to take exponentially more effort to change that first impression, whether it be good or bad, after the first 7 days. Okay. Now, the next thing that we do is we do mindset training during downtime. Okay. And so what that looks like, really, that's just going up here and hammering in this, right? Hammering in experience / we'll put mindset here, right? And basically what that looks like is it'll be a handful of videos that we want people to watch before they start running ads or before they start running email. Now, it's not mindset training as in like you need to go monk mode and like all that bullshit. It's like mindset training is in like, hey, if we spend 2K on ads and we haven't closed a client yet, that's totally okay. That's totally normal. You know, hey, if we take your first 15 sales calls on this new offer and we haven't closed it yet, right? That's totally fine and that's totally normal. We're like, here is the process that we're going to follow, right? And all this kind of stuff, right? So they're mentally equipped to actually scale their company. And we also tell them during this phase, and it's almost like mindset preparation, is like growth is uncomfortable. I find it ironic. It's like people come to me and they work with me and they're like, Dylan, I want to grow my company. And I'm like, okay. So then we start growing their company and then it gets uncomfortable because growth is uncomfortable and they're doing things that they've never done before so they can reach a level of business that they've never done before, which fundamentally is going to be uncomfortable. But then soon enough, they come late, like a month in, they come to me and they're freaking out because of how uncomfortable things are, right? It feels like I'm spending so much money on ads and like my clients are like, you know, freaking out and like all this stuff is happening. I'm like, yeah, like what did you expect was just going to happen? It's just going to be sunshine and rainbows. You're fundamentally growing. Growing is always uncomfortable, right? These are the types of things that we're drilling into our clients and we have them watch after the onboarding call and before they meet up with us to, again, increase this level of sophistication here, because this is the biggest lever to pull in our service delivery, because fundamentally our ads, our offers, our landing pages, they already do very good work with that. Okay. The next thing here, this is one of the last things that we do, right? And then number 7 is a key one. Number 7 has also been a big game changer as well, but I'm going to show you guys number 6 first, is to give them a 7-day journey. Okay. This is also a very important one. Okay, and what this looks like in us, right? Once you finish your onboarding call, you get access to actually what's like a mini course, and it says your first 7 days with Catalyst. Okay, and it's like action item 1, fill out this worksheet to give us context on your business so we can build your offer. Action item number 2, fill out this form so we can go in and build your outbound campaigns. Action item number 3, fill out this form so we can go in and start building your advertising campaigns, right? Action item number 4, show up to your offer call, right? Action item number 5, right? And it just watch these videos, right? And it clearly lays out and articulates exactly what they need to do each day of the first 7 days. So they are never once not knowing what to do. And all they have to do is just follow step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. They always know what's to expect next. They never feel like they're in no man's land. They never feel like they don't know what's going on, which is a feeling that you want to completely avoid. Now, the last one, and this is another very important one, is to charge as high as you can up front. Okay. Now, what I mean by as high as you can, I mean, anytime I'm delivering a service or creating an offer, my baseline pricing model is something where at bare minimum, my client or my customer receives a 5 to 10x return on investment. So I don't mean charge as high as you can, as in like just charge as much as they're willing to pay, but making sure that you're charging high up front is super, super important. Right. And the reason why is because when somebody pays you 10, 15, 20, 30, 40K, believe it or not, they actually do the shit that you need them to do in order to get them results. When somebody pays you $3,000 a month and they're running $100,000 a month business and like they don't, like, you could probably rebuild them and they wouldn't even know, like, they're not going to do these things. They're not going to actually watch all the videos. Right? Like, we found that the people that work with us and do a prepayment, meaning that they, prepay for the first 6 months of our engagement, get exponentially better results than those ones who want to split it up or all that kind of stuff. They get the exact same service delivery. Our service delivery team is 100% compensated and incentivized based on the results that they get for their clients, right? For the clients that they're working on, right? So it has nothing to do with their level of service delivery. Now they all have the same onboarding process, right? The only difference between, and the only reason why the ones who prepay us up front get exponentially better results is because they're so much more bought into the process. And when they're bought into the process, they do better, they execute more, they move faster, they understand the expectations, they over communicate, they participate in their community, and they track their data. And guess what? They get better results. Okay. So that right there is how I went from getting one or two case studies a month to 1 or 2 case studies per day. And if you want proof of that, check me out on my Instagram. If you want other videos on how we actually built the systems to actually manage and deliver this service, you can click this button right here. And if you have any questions about this, just leave a comment below. I'll see you guys in the next video.